Principal Matters Podcast, episode 401. Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, where each week we bring you inspiring, innovative, and imaginative ideas for your own school leadership. This week, we're going to be talking about inspiring and developing others with my special guests from the Northwest Rankin High School admin team in the great state of Mississippi. Sitting in the room with me today is Lewis Bradford, high school principal. Also with us today is David Jones, Jessica Hodges, and Benny Bullock. I'm going to ask each of them for just a moment to do a quick introduction. Tell us what your role is, how long you've been in education, and I'll begin with you, Lewis.
All right. Hi, Will. My name is Lewis Bradford. This is my 18th year in education. It's my second year here as the lead principal of Northwest Rankin High School. I've been in administration now for going on I think it's my 10th year in administration. So, but it's my second year in the lead role here at Northwest Rankin High School.
Lewis, it's great to have you in the room. David
Thank
Jones.
I've been in education for about 13 years. I started out teaching science classroom for 8 years. Then I moved into the transportation, running the buses for 3 years. And this is my second year as an assistant principal. I handle ninth grade in science primarily.
Thanks for being here, David. Jessica Hodges.
Good morning. This is year 22 for me in education. 18 of those years have been in administration, whether it be in curriculum and instruction, or I have been everything from an assistant principal at a high school and middle school. I have been a head principal at a middle school, and I'm now an assistant principal at Northwest Rankin High School. My job this year is currently testing. I work a lot with testing, and I also am in charge of curriculum, so I get to work with teachers for the most part. I don't have a particular grade, but I work with teachers.
It's great to see you, Jessica. And Benny Bullock.
Hi, I'm Benny Bullock. This is my 17th year in education, my 11th as an administrator, assistant principal. Similar to Mr. Jones, I did go through the transportation route on my way. So this is my 10th year overall at Northwest Rankin High School, and my 9th as an AP.
Well, and I know that you guys lead a very large high school with two other administrative members who couldn't be with us today, Dr. Terrence McEwen and Angela Reynolds. So a quick shout out to them as well, because I know each of you manages different areas and responsibilities. Jessica, I also know that you are a former Mississippi Principal of the Year, if I remember correctly. Is that correct?
Well, actually, Mr. Bradford was Mississippi Assistant Principal of the Year. I do have to give that shout out to him. But I have been, yes, in the past, I have been the Mississippi Association of Secondary School Principals Principal of the Year.
Well, congratulations. And Lewis, you and I have known each other for quite a while now through the podcast, but also through the work that you've done with the Mississippi State Association, also through our relationship with the National Association of Secondary School Principals. Last year in 21-22, you were named the Administrator of the Month, I think like 3 times. And then this year for North Rankin, you are the Administrator of the Year. So congratulations. Not only have you been recognized as the Mississippi Assistant Principal of the Year before you stepped into the role as principal, but you're recognized by your colleagues and friends there in Northwest Rankin too. And I know why. I had not only known you guys through the work through this podcast and meeting you at conferences, I've been in your school. And just a few months ago, I had the opportunity to walk the school with Lewis and to hang out with Jessica. And I have sat in presentations with David and Benny and Angela and Dr. McEwen. So thank you guys for the opportunity to bring your voice to Principal Matters. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have this conversation for so long, and we've been trying for a long time to get this to happen, is because the dynamics of teams are so important for leading schools. And so I wanted to begin here. You guys have seen a lot of improvement in the time that you've been together. I believe recently that you saw a huge improvement in accountability scores in your school from last year. And so I just wanted to take a step back and ask you, what are some of the things that you guys have focused on strategically and process and in your team that have helped you towards that growth. And Lewis, I'm going to begin with you.
Okay, this is Lewis Bradford. I'll start by talking about where we were and our focus and how we started, and then Ms. Hodges can give some of the details at a little a tighter level or more magnified level of what happened in the classroom. So Northwest Rankin High School was consistently a B-rated school in Mississippi all the way back until around 2017. Looking at the accountability coming out of COVID, we knew we needed to gain some points in the ELA area. Our goal was to gain, I think it was 40 points in the 3 boxes. No, it was 30 points in those 3 boxes and 40 points overall. Well, I think and Ms. Hodges can tell you the exact number, but I think it ended up being like 68 or 69 points that were gained just in the ELA boxes. But what we believe or how we believe that happened is January the 8th, that would have been 2023, in our PD day, we had the entire staff together and we presented the accountability model, not to talk about accountability specific, but to talk about supports, how we could support each other, not to put the stress of the accountability model or state testing on only the state testing teachers, but to spread it across the entire staff so everybody saw the accountability model and where they played a role in it. Because here in Mississippi, we test four courses that take the state test, but there are much more ways to get accountability points besides those 4 courses. So we wanted our entire staff to know that everyone plays a role. So we're the 4th largest school in Mississippi. So when things get tough or things get challenging, when things get stressful, we said, how can we handle those moments and continue staying focused on what we need to stay focused on? So that's when we came up with, and again, me personally, when things get tough, I like to simplify the best I can. So our 2 focuses were student supports being things to help us get students across that line to graduation. Student supports would build capacity in our teachers and our students to reduce failure rates and those types of things. All of that plays a role in the accountability model. Even if you're not a state tested teacher, you still play a role in supporting our students to go on and be successful and get across the stage come their senior year. So student supports were the first focus. The second focus was literacy. We talked about, we just want everyone, our teachers do a great job of implementing literacy in their classrooms, some better than others, just like everywhere else in the country. But we wanted our teachers that may not have realized that they were implementing literacy to be intentional about, okay, how am I doing it? And can I do it with a little more intentionality? So really it wasn't, we were telling them at that point how to do it. We were just saying, be intentional and make sure it's there. And if you have questions, if you're actually doing it or not, come talk to us and we can talk about what real literacy truly is. And if you see in the news, Mississippi made some huge strides as a state. And a lot of that comes back to the focus that the entire state, not just Rankin County School District or Northwest Rankin High Schools, put on implementing strong literacy strategies. The entire state has done so, and we've seen some huge, huge gains in that. So as we began talking about our presentation in Denver, Colorado at NASSP, after we saw the huge results and huge gains, we all came around a table and we said, okay, how did that happen? And that's what we came back to. We came back to trying to simplify the best we possibly can, especially for challenging days when we kind of get all over the place. And we ask, okay, what do we want to focus on? What are the specific things we want to do when things get crazy? And it all came back to supporting our students the best we possibly can, doing whatever it takes to help them be successful. And then just making sure we're intentional about implementing literacy everywhere across every classroom in our school. And then so that was what we presented on in Denver. We just wanted to talk about, hey, in an absolute crazy year, being my first year as the lead principal, we saw some huge success. And I'm asking myself, as a young leader myself in this role, how in the world did that happen? And that's where we landed. We landed on the fact of trying to make people feel supported, to simplify things and stay focused. So that's kind of what our plan was. Now, there was more to it, of course, in each department and each classroom, and those conversations took place. But as the lead and as a leadership team, we said, this is where we want every department to come back to with whatever it is they feel like serves their students in their department the best.
Everyone plays a role, and simplifying what those goals look like. And then you said two things. One, creating the right student supports, and two, having a shared focus. And yours was on literacy. So Jessica, I want to come to you next. Could you talk a little bit about at Northwest Rankin High School, because I know you've worked directly in a lot of classroom instruction support. What are some of the non-negotiables that you guys were able to commit to toward that goal? And by the way, when we say these things, all of us know as practicing leaders that none of us does any of this perfectly, but we know that with intentionality comes results. So talk a little bit about what that's looked like for you guys with the intentionality you've had around some of those non-negotiables.
I will tell you, one of the things that I love about Northwest Rankin High School is that even from the point of interviewing, when we start interviewing candidates for positions, our whole conversation is, what kind of team player are you? Like, our whole focus is on team. Starting with the admin team, we have leadership teams, we have grade level teams, you have subject team. I mean, everything is team related. And so I believe it all starts with, and especially a lot of the growth that we had started with our interview process. I mean, we went out and were searching for people who were ready to be on our team and who were ready to move forward, whatever that looked like, and wherever that looked like. So I truly believe that our success is because we have got some of the best team members on our staff. So I really do think that started out first, because our expectation really, when they come in, is that you're a team player. What role will you bring to this team? And then what does that team look like? So I get the opportunity to work with individual teams, and I work with the ELA. I'm over the ELA department. And so that was my goal for the last 3 years, is how do we build this team to be better? And that starts with, we test in 10th grade. So what does 9th grade look like? What does 11th and 12th grade look like? And so you have to have a lot of focus on working together, looking at data, what's good, what's bad, what do we bring in, what do we need to leave behind? And then we're constantly looking for, who else is out there that's doing it better than we are? And we're trying to figure out what they're doing. So it's a constant desire to move in a forward progression direction, I guess. But that's kind of our non-negotiable, is we don't want you sitting still. Mr. Bradford always refers to it as, well, we're chasing it. So what is it? It's different for every one of us, but it is always moving us forward. And if you're complacent and you're not looking for it, then you may not be best for our team. Not to say you're a bad teacher, but that's what I fully believe, is that we've got some teachers that are chasing it.
You've also implemented some really strategic measures too, Jessica, that I think would be really important to touch on for just a second too. Talk a little bit about how your master schedule prioritizes teachers working together, what that looks like with some of the teams that you guys have built, because it's impressive with a school your size, how you guys have built a master schedule that really encourages collaborative planning.
Yeah, definitely. That's really important to us too. It can be a headache sometimes, just because we are so big and there's so many factors that go into master scheduling. But our whole goal is, we started out initially, I think, with really putting a focus on those tested subject areas, and making sure that those teachers who teach that tested subject have at least one common planning block. And then, for as long as I can remember, the whole goal is, we need to try to get teachers, whether they test or not, planning together. And so time is a factor with teachers, and we know that. Before school, we're working with kids in our 0 block. So that limits time that teachers can work together. And then after school is not necessarily an option. And so we really work on our master schedule on trying to figure out, how do we get everybody that needs to be off together. And so a large majority of our departments have got a good majority of their departments that have some type of common planning. It may not be both days. Most of them, it's not both days, but they have at least one of the 2 days where they have 96 minutes every other day to plan. And so we, as an admin team, whatever department we're over, we feel like that's our opportunity as well to get in there with them and just be an observer, or we can contribute, definitely, or try to get some help that they need. But that's our opportunity to kind of keep a finger of what's going on, what's happening in their departments. And then if they want changes, and we try to help them find what they need.
Will you work as a team member? I love that question. And then giving people the capacity to work as team members too. Lucy, you had a follow-up.
Oh, no, I just, I like what Jessica said about chasing it. We're just, our district, Rankin County School District, requires people that want to be a part of what we feel like is something very special, to have a growth mindset, to always be better than what you were yesterday. So that's where I came up with, chasing it. It doesn't have a definition, but it is me being better today than what I was yesterday. And like Jessica said, the cool part of that about that is everyone's it is different. And some people will be on a different pace than others. But as long as you're trying to be better, and one question I ask candidates, and it's kind of a weird question, but I always ask it: how good do you want to be? And there's no right or wrong answer to that question, but I always love to hear what that candidate's response is to that. Because a lot of times you can read them to see what type of mindset they have at that point. So it's non-negotiable. You're going to be a team player, and you're going to try to grow.
You also have, and I know, and Benny, I'm going to ask you this next question. You guys also have a lot of supports built around helping students academically, behaviorally, emotionally. And Benny, I've had the privilege of hearing you present on student supports. And in particular, I remember you telling the story of one student named Cooper Johnson. Would you mind telling us a little bit about a student success story and how that story kind of reflects a model of what's been happening across your school?
Right. And just to kind of touch on the student supports, I know Mr. Bradford and Ms. Hodges has talked about this a little bit, but just to talk about some of the supports that we have implemented school-wide. You mentioned the non-negotiables earlier. Well, the zero block schedule is certainly one of those non-negotiables, and that's a time period for students to come in before school to be able to get remediation and extra help with their teachers. Other supports are, we have redo, retest policies in each or rules in each different subject area, where students, it's not a one and done for them. If they don't do well on particular assessments, they have an opportunity to get some remediation and hopefully come back a second time, and in some instances a third time or even more, to try to be successful. And so those are a couple of examples of student supports, and certainly we encourage students to take it upon, or excuse me, we encourage teachers to take it upon themselves to implement other supports, extended deadlines or whatever the case may be. We are under the belief that it doesn't matter so much when a student gets it, as long as they get it. And that they are able to master those objectives set out. But the example that you mentioned with Cooper, Cooper came to us. He transferred into us from a neighboring district as a ninth grader. And Cooper, he was a challenge, and there's no question about it. And so, Cooper was constantly, to start out, he was constantly in the office for undesirable reasons. And so as an admin team, we recognized early on that we needed to build a relationship with Cooper. And so pretty much everyone on the admin team began to, when we saw Cooper in the hallways, to make sure we reached out to him and smiled and gave him a fist bump or shook his hand or whatever needed to be done there. And it became routine, and to the point to where Cooper would seek us out in the hallways when he saw us. And so through those relationships, Cooper began to thrive in the classroom. Some of the mischievous behavior continued on, but he knew that we had a whole lot of respect for him, and as a result, he respected us as well. And so Cooper graduated a year ago, I think is when Cooper graduated, and because of his journey, we actually brought him back at the beginning of the summer and asked him to give us a little to provide a little video talking about how Northwest Rankin impacted his life. And Dr. Parker, you got to see that at the conference over the summer, and what he said I think was pretty genuine. Certainly he wasn't coached up at all, and Cooper. One thing I'll say about Cooper Johnson is he says what he means, and I think he certainly meant that what he talked about on the video. And there are many examples of Cooper Johnsons and other students throughout the building. And just this morning, we have a current 11th grader here at Northwest Rankin High School who's very similar to Cooper, came to us as a 9th grader, and lots of challenges, both behaviorally and academically, and we've been working toward building those relationships. And I had to praise him in front of other staff members this morning. I patted him on the back and made sure the other staff members realized, who are very familiar with the student, realized that he has not had a single discipline referral all year long, and so that is certainly a huge praise for him. And so, like I said, we've got several examples of those students walking our hallways. The biggest thing is when we see those students who may be a bit of a challenge to take the time to find out what their story is. And Mr. Bradford talks about my story or your story, and we don't always know what each other's stories are. And by doing so, we learn a lot about our students and some of the obstacles they may face in their lives. And by doing so, maybe we can help remove some of those barriers that they're dealing with and help them be successful.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. Over 1 million teachers use IXL in their classrooms every day for one reason. They love it. Why? IXL is where the magic happens. With just one platform, teachers can personalize learning for every student. IXL gives teachers all the tools they need to enhance and differentiate instruction without adding work to their plates. Plus, IXL has decades of expertise and is proven to be effective. Studies on more than 70,000 schools across 45 states show that those who use IXL outperform others on state tests. Ready to bring the magic to your school? Visit IXL.com/PM to learn more. Benny, how many students do you guys serve overall? What's the approximate number?
We're at approximately 1850. Did I get that right, Mr. Bradford?
Yeah. So with 1850, I'd love the reason I asked you to tell the Cooper story is because there's a lot of Coopers and there's a lot of Emilys and there's a lot of you fill in the names. And so every one of those kids has a name. Every one of those kids has a family. Every one of those kids has a story. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've appreciated about this team, spending time with you in your schools, is you guys somehow in a very large school setting remember that we're a school full of individuals who collectively we've got our goals, but man, every kid counts. In fact, there's a sign somewhere in your school, I'm pretty sure, Lewis, correct me if I'm wrong, that says everything matters. Is that the motto?
That's correct. That's that's a motto that our school district has taken on. So what we do is, the school district has their strategic plan, their motto, their mission, their vision. We always take ours and we develop ours underneath their umbrella. So that everything matters that's us tying ourselves back to our school district, in which we're so lucky to be part of such a wonderful school district. So yeah, and it's true. I mean, you can't deny that because everything does matter. And I just looked up our enrollment. Currently, right now, we have 1,878 students.
That's a lot of kids, but it also requires a lot of coordination among leaders to take care of that many kids. And David, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're one of the newer members of this team, and yet you're an experienced leader. So I want to go this direction next. I want to talk about some of the lessons you've learned stepping into this team of how do you guys coordinate a team this big with that many kids? What are some of the lessons you're learning as being a part of a team to coordinate, collaborate, to try to keep it simple, even in the complexity of serving so many kids?
Well, that's a big part of being a new administrator. Coming through transportation, I had the opportunity to see some of the things that happened, some of the things that would go on. But then to step into this actual role, it is a big step, but you learn real quick that communication is what's going to keep everything together. This team, anything that happens at the school, we're talking to one another, we're keeping informed with one another. We question one another all the time. I try never to make a decision without running it by at least one of the other administrators. And I think that pretty much goes around. Everybody wants to ensure that we're staying on the same track together, that we're treating each one of our students the same way. If they do something good, we want to make sure to show them that. So we make sure that we're showing each student that same way. If they do something that's not quite so good, that we don't have a bad day and punish one in a way that's different than what we would have done on a good day. So it's keeping that communication is the only way for me to be able to say that we can coordinate everything together. It's always a work in progress. It's always flowing. It's always moving. And we just have to stay on the surfboard as we go through it. But we go through that together when we work as a team to keep that happening.
Well, what I love about that feedback, David, is first of all, congratulations for being a part of a team that communicates regularly, that questions one another, that runs things by one another. That's a privilege to be able to have other people that you trust. I just finished a really good book that's been around for 20 years, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. And he talks in that book about the foundation of a dysfunctional team is an absence of trust. But the next dysfunction he calls a fear of conflict, that they're afraid to say to one another, hey, I'm not sure we're doing the right thing here, or I want to question this. So it's a privilege to be on a strong team, but it's also hard to be on a strong team because you have to run stuff that's really difficult by one another and to trust each other for feedback and to be willing to say, I don't agree in the situations too. And Lewis, I see you smiling. So what are you thinking when you think about those dynamics that good teams also mean hard conversations?
I think about yesterday. We have situations in such a large organization, situations come up all the time. And my main goal is to make sure we are doing what is right. And we're doing what's right by our school, our organization, our students, and what's expected. So in times, especially as a leader in this seat, you get a feeling like the decision needs to be made in this direction. And I can remember asking the entire team, yes or no. Nothing else, tell me yes or no. And as we went around the entire team, almost everybody hesitated to say yes or no. And then I had to just say, no, you tell me yes or no. But that's part of during the summer when we have some relaxing times, we enjoy each other's company. We have a good time. Our team, we're so talented and so experienced. We've all kind of been through good times and challenging times, but we all, when we're having good times with each other, we know challenging times are coming. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about those times and we'll say that, hey, when we get behind closed doors, we're like brothers and sisters. We can get after each other as hard as anybody. And if anybody would overhear us talking behind closed doors, they would question a lot of things. But it's all about looking at a decision 360 degrees around it to ensure that it's the best decision we can make with the most information we have. Mm-hmm. But also, no matter how heated it might get, our differences and our disagreements, we all agreed when we took this job that when we walk out of that space, back out into the school or out into the community, we're right back on track with each other. So it's just funny, when you start talking about that, we all kind of start laughing and giggling because we've had some extremely heated debates, but it's not about right or wrong. It's about doing what's best for our wonderful school here. So therefore, if anybody on our team disagrees with what I'm thinking, I don't allow that. I don't allow myself to take that personal. Therefore, that's why I believe our team can be so successful, because they can completely disagree with me, even as the lead principal, and they know they can come to me and they can challenge me because they know I will listen to try to make the best decision possible. And that's what it's all about, making the best decision possible.
I agree. The best decision with the information that we have, and
Right.
being willing to, um, behind closed doors, say the things that need to happen. And then when you're in public together, you're unified. Now, I want to ask you guys one more question about practice, and then I want to wrap up with some feedback from each of you for other leaders. And I know that if Angela was in the room, I would ask her this directly. So I might point this question back to you, Jessica, or whoever wants to take it. But you guys also do a really intentional work in connecting your community with your school through business in the classroom, through inviting leaders in. So, Jessica, do you mind talking about that for a second, or Lewis, whoever would like to take that question? But I just think that that's such an interesting work you guys are doing as a school. That's a model, I believe, for others.
Yeah, I don't mind at all. I know the others probably have a lot to say about it as well. And I do hate that Angela is not on the on here, because she's done a lot of work with this in the past. At least the past 3 years that I've been here, she has done a good job with it. But she's actually on our we have a Flowood chamber, and they have an education committee, and she's actually on that committee. And this morning, really, they had a chamber committee meeting. And so it's businesses around our area. And, we're constantly, we have got such a valuable set of resources in our community that, before, I feel like we didn't tap into them as much. And here lately, that's all we do is tap into them. And I'm not talking about tap into them for financial reasons. You're always looking for, supporters of the school, financially. Yes, that as well. But we tap into them because we've got so many kids in this building with such diverse needs and wants that our job in our building is not always about test scores. It's not always about, academic curricula, although that's important. I don't negate that at all. But our job is to get them ready for where they go and when they leave us. And so we're able to connect with our community, businesses, with our we get mentors from the community. We have we have one day where businesses will come and line our halls by the cafeteria, and they are allowing kids to apply for jobs. We have colleges that come in on a regular basis and set up tables at lunchtime, as well as businesses from the community, and they will set up tables at lunchtime, and we call it lunch and learn. And the kids have the opportunity to stop by that table and get information from them. I think not too long ago was it the National Guard was here? And they were talking to kids. They had a table set up and a fun little competition that they were doing that the kids could be a part of. But it's an opportunity for our kids to see the world that is outside of us. It allows the employers to get employees from us. And then a lot of times it's about making that connection with the kid. They may not know what direction they want to go in life. And so it allows us to make a connection so they can get plugged in with that business. And a lot of times those businesses, what they don't realize is the businesses will pay for them to get trained or go to school. And so what an opportunity for those kids that we can provide just through our connections with our businesses in the community.
Well, thanks for that summary, Jessica. Lewis, you wanted to add a few thoughts?
Yeah, the only thing I would add, I can remember Miss Reynolds and myself talking 2 or 3 years ago, and we talked about how often all the major universities and the other colleges come into our school to visit with our students. And we said, why can't we turn that into the business opportunities or the employment opportunities, especially what Flowood, Mississippi has to offer? And so it changed the conversation with our local businesses to where instead of us going to them and asking them for money all the time, like Ms. Hodges spoke of, I told them, if y'all are looking for employees, we graduate over 400 students every year. there's a population in that group of students that will turn into great employees. It's up to you if you want to come and take advantage of that or not. So we tell them we can give you a space, we can give you a time, and then it's up to you to appeal to these students if they want to come and work with you or not. You know, there's a percentage of students that will go and enroll in college and never finish anything. So therefore, a lot of them are getting into debt and they get nothing for that. So we're trying to help students see opportunities that might better fit what they want to do going straight into the workforce. And again, like I said, Flowood, Mississippi has tons of opportunities to go straight into the workforce. So we want our students to know, because our goal is to get a student ready so they can be a productive member of society and go make the world a better place. And if they're going to go make the world a better place, they might as well stay right here in Flowood, Mississippi, and help us make Flowood, Mississippi a better place. So that was kind of our goal there. But so it's been fun to watch how it's grown and over the last year or two. So it's been fun.
Well, it has been such a privilege to get to know this team. And at Northwest Rankin High School, you guys have seen the results of this kind of focused work on student supports, on teamwork among your teachers, on inviting the community in and the employers of your community, the businesses of your community for internships and training. And this holistic approach to education is what we all want for our own children and what you're creating for the children in your community. As we wrap up, I want to ask each of you to say how listeners can stay connected with you, if you don't mind sharing your email address. And what's one parting word of advice that you would give to a leader? And this can be to either a new leader or an experienced leader, but something that you would want someone to keep in mind who's doing this hard work just like you're doing. And I'm going to start with Benny.
Okay, sure. My email address is benny.bullock@rcsd.ms. That's BENNY.BULLOCK@rcsd.ms, short for Rankin County School District. One of the things that I would advise for whether they're current school leaders or future school leaders to always keep in mind is that there are many, many other school leaders out there that either have gone through and dealt with some of the same issues that you're currently dealing with or going through it at the present time as well. So make sure to, one of the most important things I've ever learned is to make sure that I network as a school leader for a lot of reasons, but also for one of the main reasons is so that I can reach out to other school leaders in other parts of the state or other parts of the country for advice on how to handle certain situations, whatever it is, whether it's student achievement, whether it's discipline issues, or whether it's master scheduling issues, it doesn't matter. There are always others out there that can assist you with that. A second thing, if I might can add one other thing, is always be sure that you do take steps to grow in your capacity as a school leader. As long as you're continuing to grow, you're going to help your staff grow, and they're going to in turn help their students grow as well.
I love that, Benny. You are not alone. Network with others and always take steps to keep growing. David Jones, how can folks stay connected with you and what parting words do you have?
All right, my email is david.jones@rcsd.ms. And I would say as the new team member here is always lean on those people around you. Don't think that you have to go into the position as a new administrator, knowing everything, understanding everything, but go in willing to learn, willing to listen, willing to take criticism sometimes when it's needed, but to use that to grow. And then build those relationships with those people around you that they will come to you when they need help, that you can go to them when they need help, and that you grow that team and make that something that you're proud to be a part of.
I love that. Lean on others, learn, listen, take criticism, and grow. Jessica Hodges, how can people stay connected with you and what parting words do you have?
Sure. My email is jhodges, HODGES @rcsd.ms. Mr. Bullock and Mr. Jones talked a lot about some of the things that I would have said, because I think that given the opportunity to be on the national board like I was, I have developed networking relationships with people across the country, and that has been probably one of the biggest blessings of my career, is that I'm able to reach out to people who are not in Mississippi, who are not even in the South, and ask questions or get feedback on what are they doing or how do they handle certain things. So definitely stay connected. But I really do think that I fully believe this. The success that I feel like I had in my career is that, we talked so much today about creating relationships with kids and making sure the kids trust you. As a school leader, your job is on the kids, but it's also on the staff that you serve. And I believe that our responsibility and our success on this team, especially, is that servant leadership is at the top of all of our list. We're here for the people that we work for. They may work under or for us, but we really work for them. And so I feel like as a leader, sometimes we forget that, we need to be out there with them. You need to be, I would never tell a teacher to do something that I'm not willing to do with them. And when we're working, I'm rolling up my sleeves and getting in there with them on whatever it may be. And so building trust with teachers, I feel like, is huge in our career because, not only on a professional level, Mr. Bradford, I think, mentioned earlier, we all have a story. We've all got issues. And so I spend 10 hours at least with some of these individuals at school, and we spend more time with each other, teacher wise, than we do a lot of times with our family. So they have to trust me. They have to know that I'm here for them. They have to know that I would do anything for them. Of course, I'm going to hold them accountable, but at the same time, I think if they trust you and know that you're in it for them, that they're going to be willing to work for you.
Servant leadership. We really work for others. Thank you for that, Jessica. Lewis Bradford, why don't you bring us home? Tell us, listeners, how they can stay connected with you and what's your parting words.
Okay, my email address is Lewis, LEWIS .Bradford, BRADFORD @rcsd.ms. It's kind of hard to follow leaders that are giving advice to come up with something original for yourself, because another part of why we're such a good team here at Northwest Rankin High School is because we value a lot of the same strengths. Networking was mentioned, and I could sit here and I could do a full session on the importance of networking for a person in their personal life and in their professional life to be the best they can be. I mean, that's a session in itself, just specifically on networking and how that's helped me through my experience. I guess the thing that I would add to what's already been said, because Ms. Hodges spoke on servant leadership, and that's the core of who I want to be and who I try to be every single day. At the end of the day, we can talk about accountability, we can talk about curriculum and instruction, we can talk about discipline, we can talk about relationships, but I truly believe that I was put in this spot to serve people, and I try to do that the best possible. So I think to be a successful leader in the roles that we hold, you have to have that servant leadership. So I guess I say all that, the only thing I could add to it, I believe, is anyone that's a new leader or someone thinking they want to get into administration, I would encourage them to process that slowly and methodically, really ask questions about the team that you're getting yourself involved with, really ask questions about the supports that are going to be available, because you're going to need that. This is a job. It gets lonely in our spots. We've had to make the comment in the room as we're debating things. A lot of times people don't understand what happens inside that room when an administrative team's having to make a tough decision. So it's a very, very challenging spot, very rewarding spot, but very challenging spot. So I would encourage young leaders, don't just jump out there necessarily at the first opportunity you have, because it could really set your career on a different path than what you expected it to be. Ask questions about who you're going to be working for. Ask questions about who you're going to be working with. Really dig into that part, because it's an exciting opportunity, but go into that process slowly and truly think it through to make sure it's a good fit for you, not just not just an opportunity necessarily. So that's what I would encourage people to do.
Well,
be careful what you ask for.
Agreed. And Lewis, one of the things I'm excited about, even though we're recording this in the early part of the spring semester, is this will be coming out closer in summer, when a lot of aspiring leaders are looking at that new position or searching for that new opportunity. And you're right, knowing your team, knowing those supports, knowing the kind of place that is going to make you a better educator and leader is just as important as any title or position or promotion. I would say it's more important. And so, man, I know we could carry this conversation on for so much longer, but Principal Matters listeners, I just want to encourage you, if as you've listened to today's conversation and you've thought about the practices happening in one high school, in Northwest Rankin High School in Flowood, Mississippi, if there's anything that has been mentioned that you just want to know more about, you want to know more about the business relationships or the professional learning communities or the teamwork that's happening or the student supports, or where do you guys put this in your handbook, for this behavior that surprised me this semester, reach out, and I'll put all of the email addresses in the show notes for today's show. But Lewis and Jessica and David and Benny, and please give my regards to your other assistant principals. Thank you guys for the work that you've been doing supporting Northwest Rankin High School. Thank you for giving Principal Matters listeners an opportunity to meet you today. And Principal Matters listeners, thank you for doing what matters. We'll talk to you again soon. You can find free resources like this one at williamdparker.com. Subscribe for our free weekly newsletter, which contains bonus material, and also check out the links for Grow Academy's Masterminds, Executive Coaching, and Keynote presentations from my books, as well as from Principal Matters Associates. You can find out more under our speakers tab at williamdparker.com. Thank you for learning together, and thank you for doing what matters.